This is Dr. Ed Two Rose with the Focus Life Institute. And after spending 37 years in Fortune 100 as a manager, 10 years for Unilever, and 27 years as a manager and trainer with the Coca-Cola Company, I tell you what, I saw some things that need to be addressed in the workplace. And as I retired, I'm starting to see more of this happening in the workplace, but I want to help you get focused. And if you are somebody that's in the Gen Z generation, I'm talking about 13 to about 26, I'm here to help you to be able to be focused on what you need to do to be able to overcome some of the things that employers are saying in the workplace about this generation. A recent statistic said that a lot of young people are not lasting at least a year in a new job. They're being fired, terminated, let go. And one of the biggest reasons is because of lack of professionalism in the workplace. I don't care what is going on in the culture and society, there's still a code of conduct, a culture that most organizations work with. So, what employers are really saying, I'm going to teach you how to fix it today and help you provide that opportunity for you to see how important it is to get focused. Now, there are 7 professionalism gaps that you must close. If you are in this age group, I want to help you close this gap because we want to equip you so that not only you can be successful in your current job, but also advance within that organization or maybe another organization down the road. 70% of employers say that Gen Z lack basic professionalism. 70%. Now, I'll tell you what, that's almost three-quarters of businesses are saying right now that they have a real concern about this generation, that they lack the professionalism. I know when I was working with the Coca-Cola Company, there was a situation where times changed and we used to wear suits and ties. That ended and we went more business casual. Well, I can tell you what, that affected a lot of things. In fact, some organizations that I was working with did not allow their employees to go as business casual. And that's something that really affected maybe the perception of individuals. Something about when you're in a suit, you're in a tie, or you're in a sport coat or a shirt, and a nice pair of pants, professionally dressed, something makes a statement to the organization as well as to your customers and clients. It's not about talent, it's about work readiness. And I want to help you get ready for work. And the good news is these things can be developed over time as I share these with you based on my experience as a manager and trainer who manages a $75 million territory, multiple regions, 6 different regions across the Great Lakes, and be able to work with different people. I want to help you be successful. The number one weakness they're saying is the weakness of communication skills. And a lot of that has to do with 6.5 hour average of young people spend on their phone and be communicating that way versus the communication of speaking correctly, poor writing skills, maybe overuse of slang or different type of things that you might want to put on on as you react to certain people on a text, avoiding eye contact and feedback. I have 3 grandchildren. When they talk to me, they're looking me straight in the eye. I make sure of that. So one of the greatest opportunities and the number one skill, because I teach on the essential soft skills and communication is the number one essential soft skill that basically employers are saying that young people don't have. A recent statistic here I'm going to read to you. 89% of employers say that they value soft skills as much more than they do technical skills. 44% of business executives say recent graduates lack the soft skills such as communication, critical thinking skills. 77% of employers say that soft skills are just as important as hard skills, but only 37% believe graduates are well prepared. And I'll tell you what, I've been in high schools and I've been in colleges as a Focus Life Institute, and nobody's teaching what we're teaching on the top 10 essential soft skills. We have a course on skills for success in the information we'll provide later. But think about this, there is a solution. You got to practice real conversations, emails, and presentations weekly. My nephew was working for a marketing company at one point, and my nephew, man, he was a sharp young man, graduated with a marketing degree, and I had him interview with this organization that I was working with, and the gentleman that hired him loved him, and but about 6 months down the road, he came to me. He says, "I'm going to fire your nephew." I said, "Can you please tell me why you're going to fire him?" He said, "Well, first of all," he says, "is that." He doesn't know how to write an email. His communication skills of writing an email are terrible. I said, "Did you ever teach him how to write an email? Bullet points, not paragraphs." He says, "No, we expect him to know that." Well, Hello. You'd expect him to know that, and you didn't train him properly and correctly. Number two says is that he doesn't get along with one of the ladies within the organization. He's always bucking her, and it seems like she really needs he needs to go because of her situation. I said, let me tell you something. I'm in your organization. You do marketing for my company with the Coca-Cola company. I tell you what, that woman needs to go because you just lost three of your top people because she's a dictator and she's not treating people right. And my nephew just kind of stood up to her and said, listen, this is the way we can do it together. And there was some real issues there. I said, she's the one that needs to go. She was eventually terminated 30 days later. And then finally, he says, at this point, he says he doesn't stay here long enough while I'm working. I said, what's the hours of the organization? He says, well, it's 8 to 5. I says, do you ever tell him that he needs to stay after 5 o'clock if you're still in the office? He said, no, you ought to know better. I said, listen, if your son was working for me and I told you those three things you just told me about my nephew, I'd laugh in your face. Because I tell you what I'll do. I will train my nephew. You let me take care of this situation. I brought him under my wing. I'm going to teach him how to write emails with bullet points. I'm going to teach him how to have eye contact and treat people to adapt, blend, and connect their personality style with different personality styles. And I trained him on that before he knew that. And then eventually, I'll tell you what, we're going to find an opportunity for him to be able to stay where he's at, ask you before he goes, before he leaves. Well, that young man got promoted 6 months after that, was the first man that they moved out to the West Coast. Now he's living right now in Huntington Beach with about 5 surfboards. He's not moving back east. But I'll tell you what, he was with that organization for 6 years, and now he's the national sales manager for a major corporation across the country and oversees the entire sales force. But I'll tell you what, we had to help him in the area of these weak communication skills, and we did. Number two, lack of dependability. I was working right now at a food broker because I have a food broker that was overseeing my business. They manage multiple companies like mine. And I had an administrator who had an assistant. Now I'm managing about 15 to $20 million a year in terms of management of these funds to run ads for our product, etc. And this woman texted my administrator overnight and told her, she says, I quit. I'm not coming in tomorrow. Whatever happened to 2 weeks before you go, or whatever happened to the point where if you're late or you miss some deadlines, you're not communicating with people. One of the biggest issues is a lack of communication when it comes to missing deadlines. See, as a manager, if you didn't tell me you were working on something, even though you were working on something, my perception is you weren't working on it. Okay. And this is where different personalities come into situations like that. Second of all, ghosting or no shows, not showing up. I had a meeting one time in Pittsburgh. I was working with a major company, and I had this category manager, young man, supposed to help me. He was 22 years old, and I'm there. I'm waiting. I'm there 45 minutes to an hour before the meeting started. All the customers and VPs come into the meeting. He's not there. He's helping us with the presentation. Well, I got backed up. I said, you should have left early. Why didn't you communicate with us? Never called us, whatever. He was about 20 minutes late. That made a bad impression on our company. Number three, not taking ownership, lack of personal responsibility, or maybe a spirit of average versus a spirit of excellence. And the last one, being an independent mindset. I can do it on my own. I don't need team players. We all need somebody to help us. We need a team concept. We got to break this spirit of individualism and understand there's a solution to this, to build consistent outlines and take full routines, and take full responsibility. And so you've got to take responsibility for your actions. If you mess up, take ownership on it. But again, learn something from your mistakes. Number three is unprofessional behavior addressed. It's amazing to me what people get away with to come in the office. Torn up jeans, pants down below their back end. Certain things are going on. Unacceptable. Okay. You need to walk in there. Two of the jobs that I received in my lifetime, because I walked in there with a suit, one to a Kenny Shoes, which was a shoe store, and the boss hired me on the spot because I had a suit on. Another one, when I went to a steel mill, I had a suit on. I interviewed for a steel mill job when I was in college, and they gave me the job because I had the suit on. There's something about being professionally dressed. There was a time where the Coca-Cola company was interviewing and bringing some consolidation of two different industries, one water and one the Minute Maid company I was involved with. And they brought us together, and we had an interview. Out of all the people, because they were going to eliminate some people, I didn't want my job to be eliminated. I knew I wasn't going to get eliminated. Guess what? I wore a suit and tie into that interview. myself and one other guy. Everybody else came in here with a shirt and a pair of pants on. They told me, they says, you were only two people that came in with a suit on. So sometimes when you're talking about this behavior of dress, we're talking about misunderstanding what's appropriate, oversharing sometimes online. You shouldn't overshare behavior, and make mixing personal and professional boundaries together. Being on your phone when you shouldn't be. You got to learn the workplace etiquette and dress expectations. That's why when you get into a company, you got to start asking some questions. There's a time when I worked for the Coca-Cola company where we were white and blue shirts only. We hired a young man down in Kentucky area, and he walked in the first meeting with a yellow shirt on, bright yellow shirt. Now, we are a very conservative company back then. We had 100% cotton, blue, and white shirts. My boss looked at me and said, "What's this guy doing?" I said, "Would you ever tell him?" So he said, "You need to go tell him." I said, "Okay," because I was training him. I took him down to an outlet mall and I said, "Hey, you're going into Houston next week where our headquarters are. Guess what? It'd be wise for you to buy a couple new shirts, a couple white and blue shirts," which he did. So I had to help him in that situation, be able to dress properly for that organization. Number four, poor initiative and work ethic. Only doing the bare minimum. I tell you what, you're gonna expose yourself pretty quick when you don't go the extra mile, when you don't go beyond excellence and you walk around as average. Resisting hard work. I tell you what, when you're in an organization, you got to go the extra mile. You got to stay an extra hour. You got to make sure you're there early, you leave late. If there's a meeting, you got to be there basically 15 minutes early. That's the rule I used to have. If you showed up late, I'll let you hear it, right? Lack of pride in results. Okay, you've got to understand to take some pride in yourself, and then don't be average, be excellent. You got to train yourself to go above and beyond in every task, and make sure you're able to eliminate anybody thinking about your poor work ethic or your poor initiative. You got to be enthusiastic. You got to have a great expectation when you walk in. Don't drag yourself into the organization on a Monday morning. Come walking in there, be one who's prepared. My boss used to call me up, say, "Hey, Ed, we're not making a number. I need you to come in an organization, jack some people up and get us pumped up." And we would walk in those meetings. They'd be dragging themselves in. We'd be getting themselves. I'd get right in their face and say, "Listen, guys, we can make this number. We can do it." And we eventually did. But we had to keep our expectation, not be pessimistic of expectation, what we were doing. Number five is entitlement or unrealistic expectations. There's entitlement going on right now in the world versus personal responsibility. They're expecting an instant promotion, lack of patience or humility, frustration when maybe the growth is kind of slow. I tell you what, there was a time where I went back to a local college here where I live. It's a pretty prestigious college. And I was asking the vice president about the alumni coming back. You know what they told me when they come back? They said alumni are very frustrated. They think they're up here in an organization when they start down here. You hear me? They think they're up here because they have a piece of paper versus down here. And they never humble themselves to get to the place where they're down below. And I'll tell you what, they've got to understand they were very frustrated. They were trying to do some things they probably shouldn't have done, thinking they were at this high level. I would rather humble myself going in an organization and be at the lowest totem pole. But guess what? I want to serve my way up. You hear what I said? You're going to serve your way up. I wrote a book on the hero's principle: honor, excellence, responsibility, order, expectation, servanthood. That's the acronym of heroes. And serve, so I can serve my way up. And that's what I did. So embrace the growth, get a mentor, humble yourself in the beginnings, and you will be lifted up. Number six, digital etiquette gaps right now. Texting during meetings. I had one woman that came down we were down in Florida at one of our Simply Orange Juice plants. She was taking over for me. I was training her because I was retiring. And I was in the meeting with her, and they're explaining to her how this process of Simply Orange Juice is made, the things we do, some pertinent information. She's over there on her phone, really texting people and making jokes. I mean, I told my boss, this woman has got to stop this, and they did stop her. Sometimes there's Zoom fatigue or sloppiness. You get on a Zoom call, and guess what? You don't have a nice shirt on. You might be a situation where you get up, you have a pair of shorts on. Not good, right? Lack of clarity in online communication. You got to learn virtual professionalism in this day and age, and you got to learn the standards that the company has. At the Coca-Cola company, I had a code of conduct that I had to go through each and every time that we met. The code of conduct. Find out what the code of conduct is on the organization. Abide by that code of conduct. Don't be sitting here talking on your phone or texting during meetings. Make sure you pay full attention. And number seven, struggles with feedback or conflict. This is where people get offended, right? Getting defensive, shutting down when they really need to be communicating certain things. Just because somebody comes back to you and has a different point of view, you cannot take an offense. That's one of the worst things that causes strife in an organization, and you don't want strife in your organization. You don't want to be cause of strife, or they're going to eliminate you. Avoid necessary conversations. Sometimes what happens is you stop communicating when people need to hear from you because you got offended or you felt somebody gave you some feedback and you didn't like it. And this is based sometimes on behavioral styles also of the personality style. Emotional immaturity. You get stressed, depressed, or you get anxiety, you get frustrated because somebody right now gave you the wrong feedback or a little bit of conflict. Listen, when people come together, there's going to be conflict all the time because of different personality styles. That's why I train people at the Coca-Cola Company. I would go in and train them on personalities and show them the value of each personality style and how where one was weak, the other one was strong, and be able to work together as a team. And finally, the solution to that is practice feedback with grace, build emotional intelligence, and be a person right now that understands how to serve other people. If you make somebody else look good, they're going to make you look good. So don't get offended when you're being struggled back with some of this feedback or conflict. So, how do you prepare for the real world? The Focus Life Institute helps you do that. You can check all our online courses. There are over 270 lessons and video lessons, soft skills. I deal with the top 10 essential soft skills that LinkedIn's been saying young people don't have, but I do it on a practical basis based on your personality style. We've got multiple opportunities at the Focus Life Institute. I hope this was an opportunity for you to understand how important it is to be professionalism in the world today. I hope you understand that if you are able to do these things, you're going to be able to advance in the organization. Check out all the information at focuslifeinstitute.com. We'll see you next time. And remember this, your focus, it does determine your future.